Welcome back, militant sim racers, to the Gamer Muscle YouTube channel. What could we possibly be doing in this video but checking out more Project Cars 2? Now, following on from our previous videos, another comment that we got a lot of was, it's all very well seeing people drive properly, but what's it actually look like when driven badly? So, what I've gone and done is recorded some footage of me driving badly. Now, we are trying to drift, but unfortunately, I'm not a very good drifter, and also we've gone a bit bananas with the car setup and put up the tyre pressures on the rears to be enough that we're effectively driving party balloons on the back of the car, and we've also got more minus tow than a farmer that's had an accident with a combine harvester. The end result is a rear end of the car that's more active than Dora the Explorer, which might make you ask the question, why go so bananas with this setup? And the reason is, when it comes to pristine, unlike the United Kingdom sunshine weather, the cars actually have a lot of grip in Project Cars 2. And though you can, especially in the case with this LaFerrari, pop the back out without setup changes, it's very hard to get a lot of the cars into monstrous, controllable with the throttle drifts unless you do start to make changes with them. Now, fortunately, what you will find is if you change the tyre compounds, and the cars all have different tyres you can put on them, and you do make setup changes, you can then start doing absolutely bananas drifts. Even bigger than the car setup changes, though, is the effect that the different weather has on the vehicles. Unsurprisingly, a cloudy day, which accompanies lower temperature road surfaces, has less grip than a sunny day. A slightly rainy day, again, even lower grip, and thunderstorm, even worse, and then snow and ice, you're basically driving a shopping trolley. Now, in terms of how the drifting operates compared to other simulators that I play, I think for the most part it's really nice. I think what it tends to do better than the other simulators is when it comes to high-speed, long drawn-out drifts with certain vehicles, that seems to operate quite well, and also it seems to do pretty much similar to AC, for example, the low-speed drift, AC and Live for Speed. The low-speed drifting seems fairly similar to them. What I think it does maybe not as well is the way the cars bite back in from a drift. So in AC, you notice particularly how tight the car grips back in, and then when it's in grip, regardless, even if you've got like a drift setup, it's tighter than Project Cars 2, whereas Project Cars 2 always feels a little bit as if it's staying somewhat in that kind of drift profile. But of course, I'm using a media version, and I know they've adjusted other things since this build that I'm using, so things are open to change, and it'll be interesting to see what does change. Kebab shop. Now, if you thought that Ferrari footage was pretty terrible and a demonstration of how not to drift, hold on to your horses, because we're taking a BMW out at Bruno for some wet weather slidey drivey. This time, all I did with the vehicle was we upped the tyre pressures a bit on the rear, but the main thing was just turning off all the traction control and everything. And as we exit the pits, it's a good moment to appreciate the therapeutic effect of raindrops on a car. I think anyone that grows up in England has a memory of being sat in the back of a vehicle with that pitter-patter of raindrops and the windscreen wipers. SMS should do a side sell of the sound effects from this game for those tapes that help you go to sleep at night. Don't fall asleep whilst drifting your BMW, though. So another thing of note with the wet weather driving is that it's not just a case, or it doesn't feel to be the case, that it's just lower grip overall. There's genuinely a different general character. And you'll notice here, I actually fit the car in expecting it to have a lot less grip than it did in terms of the front end bite, because of the expectation that, you know, it'd just be wet, so the fronts would just scrub and I won't be able to get the back out. And you will notice in the wet weather that you do get not just a lower overall grip, there's variations in grip, and you get bits of track that are more wet than others, have less or more grip than others, so you kind of have to pay attention to that, and it's quite nice, given that most games, when they do the varied weather, tend to it's just a lower grip with a different texture and some effects on top of it. So that's really nice to have an actual variation in grip. Now, you notice we're getting the car sideways around here, and as you'd expect, the slides are actually a lot more progressive and in many ways easier to maintain, easier to control. Things just happen a lot slower in the wet because the tyres don't have that immediacy of the bite. which is a reason why if you look at those test tracks with the sprinklers on it for people to practice drifting, part of that is obviously so that people don't go bankrupt through wearing out their tyres, but it's a really good way to learn how to drift a car progressively. It all comes together a lot slower than if you're trying to drift in the dry. But of course, if you get a bit too much angle and it bites back, around you go, back to drift school, stand in the corner of the room with the dunce hat on. That's basically me all day long. Might as well just get a permanent dunce hat with the D stitched in, put it in the washing machine, wear it every single day, saves taking it on and off. And now you get to experience the torture of a BMW engine in third gear up a hill. Now you see, if I was really skilled, we'd end this video on a really impressive combination of drifts, connecting them all up and, all looking nice. But here we go. Close your eyes. To be fair, there's a dead body in the boot. It's flopping around and it's totally throwing off the balance of the car. Nothing to do with my terrible driving. I have to say as well, actually, this Bruno circuit seems to be a really good track for practicing longer drifts, just due to the number of long progressive corners it's got on it, and a lot of those corners also being slightly downhill, but not absurdly so. So it's a good track for learning how to do larger slides, especially if you're a bit of a noob like myself. Though I'm going to cover it in a separate video talking about the specific weather in Project Cars 2, it's worth saying in this video, since we are driving in the wet, what's really nice is just how the puddles build up on the road surface. And the fact that those puddles don't do a canned baked loss of control car effect. You actually can go over some of the puddles, aquaplane 1, 2, or just motorboat the car over them, and you can use skill to control the car. If you've played Forza, maybe this is just me being terrible at Forza, but if you play Forza, the puddles on that just seem to do a completely baked effect on the car. And the only other simulator I played that had puddles on the track, though they weren't dynamic, was Netcar Pro, and in that you drive over them. It had a really nice sound effect, but you could, you'd lose control of the car a little bit, as you'd expect, but you could actually, it wasn't just a death sentence, it wouldn't just put you in the wall, you could use a bit of skill. And nicely, when it comes to those puddles on the track in Project Cars 2, again, you can actually drive over them and control the car a bit. It does depend on the car, of course. If you're driving a vehicle tighter than a 2008 Bank Manager, then obviously the car's going to just completely lose control. I mean, you can catch it. With the Formula C, you can go over puddles and catch it. I've tried it, but it's a lot harder, obviously. But if you're driving a road car or any of the older race cars, or especially the Rallycross cars, then it's actually a lot easier and they just sort of la-di-da over it. So it's just really nice that you've got that aspect to it. And I think, for me, that is the big thing with Project Cars 2, is just the general variety that it offers. That's my main enjoyment I've been getting out of it, especially putting a bit more time into it this weekend. So I think that's a good place to end this video before I do another... No, I've done it again. Got to test the off-road grip. It's driving so bad. I'm sorry, guys. I tell you what, in the video description, I'll pop a link to Hobnob1. I guess his account was banned, so he was Hobnob, but now he's Hobnob1. He's got a nice video of him drifting when the older vehicles on a go-kart track at low speed, and he's making it look nice. So check out his video if you want to see low speed drifting in Project Cars 2 and someone that's vaguely competent at it. Also, don't forget to click the subscribe button. Do that. I mean, I've already given out 30% extra grip to those of you that subscribed in previous videos, so I can't do that again. Slightly Mad Studios are getting rather angry at me. For this video, Bandai Namco will give you 35% better drift skill as out of the box, just by clicking the subscribe button. Absolutely amazing. Thank you, Bandai, for such a generous offer. Yes, like and dislike and all that business. I definitely need a cup of tea now. It's the middle of the day. Till the next one, guys. Thanks for watching. Have a good day and goodbye.